It's roster report card time, and our everydayers are handing out their grades to the starting rotation.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. So who are the rotation locks for 2026, and what grade did our everydayers give them for 2025? And who are the guys that we're glad they're not a lock for 2026, and what grades did they get? And let's talk about our young guys and where they're going to land and what we thought about their 2025 season. Before we talk about the Angels, we want to thank our sponsor, Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we've been talking Angels baseball with you for the past 4 seasons here at Locked On Angels. Mike and I trying to bring our fan-guided wisdom to the Halos, and if they just listen to us and our everydayers, maybe they'd get somewhere, Mike. But that's neither here nor there today, because we are talking about the grades that you, our Locked On everydayers, gave to the starting rotation. We had hundreds of respondents, almost 200, and had a pretty good sample size, pretty good pool of voters and graders. So let's get into the grades. And how about we start it with Yusei Kikuchi, Mike? You haven't seen these yet, and so you're flying blind here, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on these grades. Let's talk about Kikuchi. He got a score of a 3.81. That was good for a B grade. A lot of the comments were around the theme of not an ace, maybe a 2 or a 3. People said that he was a good signing, and they also said he was solid and reliable. So again, a 3.81 for Yusei Kikuchi, a B grade. Mike, your initial thoughts to these grades?
Every time I think about Yusei Kikuchi and his last season, I think about how many games he left when he was up. He was winning. And I think that the B grade is a fair grade. I think I would probably go a bit lower. I think I'd be a B minus, maybe a C plus. And not because of him. I think it was how he was managed, being pulled out of games when he didn't need to be pulled out of games. But then there were games where he just could not get that final out. He had 2 outs, and then he just could not get that final out, which is why I would drop his grade. Maybe a B minus is where I would land. But it also showed that this staff and how they managed him, they weren't able to manage this guy to his best potential. And even as the season was winding down, Ray Montgomery's still taking him out in games that he needs to finish because they're not playing for anything. So let's see what he can do. Let's see him pad his numbers. And that's something that I would love to see Kikuchi do in 2026. Now, yes, he's the ace of this staff. He is really, on paper, more of a 3, maybe a high 4, right? But on the Angels, he's the ace of this staff. The Angels just didn't treat him as the ace of this staff in a lot of his starts. I want to see this guy go to the 6th inning. I want to see this guy not just get through 5 and then qualify for the win. I want to see this guy really push deeper into games. And there were opportunities where he was able to do that, and then the Angels were not able to get him a lead, or they were not able to tie the game. And so a lot of his win-loss record is a false win-loss record, because he should have probably had that flipped, should have had more wins than losses. I know that wins and losses kind of irrelevant in today's game right now, but I think going longer in games is something I want to see from Yusei Kikuchi, especially if you're counting on him to lead this rotation.
Yeah, he's going to have to be an anchor of this rotation next season, considering he is definitely a lock. He's got 2 more years on his contract. And by all accounts, it was a good year for Yusei Kikuchi, right? And the way he ended in Houston last year was a much different story than how he began in Toronto last year. And we were hoping that that would carry over into a full season with the Angels. And there were certainly elements of it, right? There was certainly elements of his pitching arsenal being effective. And then there were moments where kind of got away from some of the stuff he was doing well. Remember, there was that one game where he said, yeah, I was trying something new and it didn't work out. And we're all like, what are you doing? Like, you just had a great game the start before, and now you're trying something new. Well, in hindsight, maybe it was the time to start something new or try something new because it was the end of the season. They weren't playing for anything. And he's like, all right, I'm going to go out there and face real competition and see if this is anything. And fortunately or unfortunately, it wasn't anything. So he stopped doing whatever he was doing in that game. But all that to say, Mike, I think every time he went out there, he gave the Angels a chance to win for the most part. I'd say at least 80% of the time, right? And like you said, he left the game often with the lead. I'm going to push back on giving him a lower grade just because of how he was managed. I think in terms of everything that he could control, I think a B grade is excellent. And when I think of Yusei Kikuchi, I think of a B pitcher. I don't think of an ace. I don't think of A+. I don't think of an A. He has flashes of being an A, but I think that's more the case of, hey, every now and then you're going to get an A start out of Yusei Kikuchi, and then every now and then you're going to get a C start out of Yusei Kikuchi. So split the difference, give him a B grade. That's kind of where I land with Kikuchi in terms of how his season went in 2025.
Yeah, and I think that the comments from the everydayers are very appropriate. Good signing, but with the Angels, he could be a good signing if he was one of a few arms. But with the Angels, he's the ace. So good signing, yes. Be nice to be able to surround him with some better pieces in 2026, and that's the yet to be determined for the Angels. When the season's over, we'll see what they do and who they'll go after, but they need to surround Kikuchi with other pitchers that can go deep into games as well. Like, he was somebody that when he given the opportunity, he can go deep in games. They need somebody that's going to eat up some innings, and not just eat innings that are we're just eating innings, but doing it successfully. And that's always been my pet peeve with the Angels and them having a starting rotation where, well, we need some guys to get these innings done. I'm tired of get these innings done. I want guys that can do it effectively and keep our team in the ballgame.
Yeah. Speaking of guys who they got to make a decision on, and not so much if he's going to be in the rotation, but how are they going to handle him in 2026? And that's Jose Soriano. Our everydayers gave him a score of 3.85. That's good for a B+ grade. The comments there are ace level stuff, needs consistency. And then the last comment made me laugh. A lot of this sentiment, home and away, like the splits. Remember, the splits were very, very different from home and away. Something about pitching at home did not work for Jose Soriano. Mike, I feel like when I'm saying that the Angels need to make a decision on him, it's really how can you take him to the next level? Because all the tools are there, but it's finding consistency, as our everydayers mentioned, and what the heck is going on at home to where he's not ready on the mound. Maybe it's the air conditioning. Remember, we saw Yusei Kikuchi say there's no air conditioning in the weight room, and the Angels didn't fix it all season long. Maybe that's it, because Soriano's coming out and not pitching well at home, and you can see it right from the beginning. And there were times this season where you and I said, you know what kind of start you're going to get from Jose Soriano, depending on how that first inning goes. He'll get a 1-2-3 inning with 3 Ks, or it'll be a 6-batter inning with a couple of walks and a couple of flyouts, and not the way he typically gets outs. And that just gave you insight into how his start was going to go. But I think overall, a 3.85, a B+, I'd give that to Soriano. And I think he's on that B+ cusp, because he does have the stuff to be something greater than he has been in the last 2 years. And in 2025, we got our first full season with him as a starter. And fortunately, he was healthy, except for, taking that ball off the hand that kind of ended his season early. What are your thoughts on the grades and Jose Soriano in 2025?
Yeah, the grade is perfect. I think a B+ is perfect. And the way that the Angels can take him to the next level is to help him figure out why he struggles at home. I don't think that his stuff is going to get better. I think his stuff is fantastic. He just needs to be consistent with his stuff, but he's got to be able to pitch well at home. Home is where the heart is, John. Home is your field. It's your house, and you have to protect the house. And Soriano just wasn't able to do that. Now, are there environmental factors like the AC? Maybe, but the Angels need to figure out, their coaching staff needs to figure out how to get this guy focused on the mound at home, because John, the ace of the staff is Jose Soriano. He doesn't know it yet, and I don't know if the Angels know it yet, but the ace of the staff is Jose Soriano. He's the guy that stops the losing streak. He's the guy that can go 7 innings when you need somebody to help not lose a series. He's the guy that can get deep into a game. He's a guy that can get a strikeout when necessary. He's also a guy that is going to make you get contact and hit with contact, and he's going to hit it. You're going to hit it to somebody. And then the defense behind him are going to turn a double play. The guy led the league twice as many double plays than anybody else.
Yeah.
He was so good at getting contact when necessary. He was also really good at getting the strikeout. The thing that he personally, I think, needs to work on is he doesn't need to overthrow his stuff.
Yeah.
He was always overthrowing his stuff. In those games where he struggled, he was trying to get more bite on his off-speed stuff. He was trying to have that sinker just really be high mile per hour, but often would miss kind of in the middle of the zone. I think he's somebody that doesn't know what he has in his arsenal, and that might be a piece where this offseason he can work through. But he's the ace of the staff, John. He's the guy that's going to be leading this staff at least next year, depending on what moves the Angels make. But I would say that Jose Soriano is somebody that we can count on to lead this starting rotation. He should be the opening day starter. I know he's not making the money that Yusei Kikuchi is making, but I would make him my opening day starter because I would love to see him be the guy that when all eyes are on the Angels, I would love for non-Angel fans and national media to see what Jose Soriano can do on the mound. And so opening day is one of those best places, best times to do that.
Yeah, if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like he just needs to trust his ability and his stuff a little bit more and not try to overthrow it, not try to do too much because it's all naturally there. He's got the talent. He's got the stuff. It reminds me, Mike, of somebody who sounds like he's going to be a lock for the 2026 rotation, and that's Reed Detmers.
Yeah.
Had to go out there and trust his stuff out of the bullpen. Didn't have time to think about what he was doing out there. You just got to go out there and throw because you're a one-inning guy and you're trying to get those 3 outs. I think that worked well for Reed Detmers. We'll talk about him on a reliever show, but he's certainly going to be a lock. And I think that the same lesson applies to Jose Soriano there.
Yeah. Now, this is off topic because we're going to talk about Reed on tomorrow's show with the bullpen. But, John, do you think that Reed Detmers' presence in this starting rotation benefits Kikuchi and Jose Soriano? And if so, what way do you think it might benefit them?
I think immediately you're getting somebody who has some dominant stuff. And what I mean by that is I think out of Soriano and Detmers, like their fastballs are, they can hit high 90s, right? And sometimes Detmers rears back and it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? And he's got that potential. And then with Kikuchi, he doesn't use the fastball at like such a high speed as you might expect. And every now and then he could sling one in there. I just think, I think different looks from each of these guys, especially left, right, left. You could do that.
Yeah.
And
here's my pushback to my comment about opening day and having Soriano be the opening day starter. If Reed Detmers is in this rotation, and it sounds like he's going to be, then you go Kikuchi, Soriano, Detmers, because I think Kikuchi and Detmers have some really good off-speed stuff that'll get people to swing and miss. And I think that Soriano's stuff is so different than their stuff. He's got the sinker and he's got the knuckle curve.
The ground ball stuff, right?
Yep, a lot of contact. And so that could be a really good 1, 2, 3 for the Angels, again, depending on who else they add to this rotation. But that's how I would see it. If Reed is going to be the number 3, then I think I would have Kikuchi be the opening day starter and then have Soriano be the second starter for the Angels.
I'd feel pretty good going into a 3-game set with those 3 guys lined up against any team. And because I feel like they give you a chance to win. And I think that's the most important part is, hey, get out of that jam, get out of that game, 3 runs or less. Like, give me that every time. And then the offense has to step up in a lot of ways that they didn't this year. And that's really key. And that's why. Oh, go
ahead. For each of those guys too, it's mental, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be what they're thinking about. But for Soriano and Detmers specifically, you guys have great stuff. So just utilize that great stuff and you're going to dominate the opposing team.
Absolutely. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we're saying goodbye to a couple of pitchers and also one that's going to stick around, but we're not really sure where he's going to land to begin 2026. We got the grades that you gave these starting pitchers. We'll get into that coming right up.
Watching live baseball is so much fun, but getting tickets for those live games can be really difficult. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. takes the fun out of it. And that's why you need to use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to you, our everydayers. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. All the fees are included, so the price that you see is the price that you'll pay. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's less stressful than any other way of buying tickets. You can download the app right now, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Hit us up wherever you check out your podcasts, wherever you listen, we're there for you. Also, if you're watching on YouTube or maybe on your smart TV, you can find us all over smart TVs. It's kind of weird sometimes when people send us pictures that we're on their TV, but that's okay because it's kind of cool. But it's also like, whoa, we're on TV. But also hit us up on social media at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros. And of course, find today's show on YouTube. Get in the comment section. It's the best way to interact with us. What are your responses to some of the grades that our everydayers have given out? Of course, if you want a deeper dive on these report cards, we have them on our social media as well.
Yeah, and we're continuing with your grades of the starting rotation. Here's 3 names, Johnny, that are not going to be in the rotation for 2026. Now, we know that 2 are guaranteed to not be in the rotation as of right now. The third maybe, possibly could be there, but we'll get to him in just a moment. John, let's start with Tyler Anderson, the guy who the Angels signed for 3 years and came over from the Dodgers. And you and I had a love-hate relationship with this guy, and I would love to see what our everydayers said about him and the grade that they gave him.
All right, you ready for this? Here we go, Mike. He's flying blind. Tyler Anderson received a score of 2.33 out of 5. That's good for a C- grade. The comments are centered around the theme of inconsistent. We should have traded.
Yep.
And he was what we thought.
Yep.
He was, and this year coming in, he was what we thought he was going to be. Mike, your response to that score, that grade, and those comments.
This is why we have the best everydayers, because this is exactly who Tyler Anderson was, right?
Yeah.
C-. You didn't know what you expect. You mentioned with Kikuchi that he's a B, but sometimes could give you an A start. Tyler Anderson was a C- that would teeter into the B category. And then maybe every once in a while, an anomaly, he'd have a really A start, 7 innings and 7 Ks and 4 hits and no runs. But that was a few and far between for Tyler Anderson. And the Angels just missed the opportunity to get something for him.
Yeah.
And the reason they kept him was because they wanted to eat innings. And that has been, again, the pet peeve as a fan of this team. I'm tired of pitchers that are just eating innings. I'm tired of pitchers that are just going to get us through this game. And that shows me that you are not serious about being competitive, even though you throw that word out all the time, Perry Manassian. When you have somebody that just kind of eats innings but doesn't do it effectively, you're wasting my time and everyone's time. I want pitchers where you feel like you're going to win with those pitchers. And with Tyler Anderson, there were moments where it felt like we were going to win, but he was not the same guy that he was first half last year. This year, he was not together. He could not get his pitches to do what that he wanted them to do. How many times did we hear Tyler Anderson drop the F-bomb after throwing a pitch this year? It felt like almost every time he threw it. Now,
those comments were also in our report cards, just like censored versions of the F word. I thought that was pretty funny. I just didn't want to put it on the card.
Right. Well, it was kind of the epitome of his year, John, because when he would throw and he would miss, he'd be so mad at himself. The thing that I felt like he did better this year than he did in previous years was he didn't walk a lot of guys. And he still a lot of walks, but it was always in the years prior, he would just hurt himself. This year it didn't feel like he hurt himself that much with a walk. Where he got hurt was contact. Yeah. They were able to just hit anything that he was throwing. Either his stuff is not the same that it was in years past, which is probably true, but it also might be that people just kind of know the book is out on him. Maybe he's tipping his pitches, but there were moments where it just felt like they knew exactly what was coming and they were hammering that. And he got a lot of lucky hits to infielders and to outfielders. But with Tyler Anderson, you're holding your breath every time he goes out there. So I'm glad that he's not on this team anymore. It'll be interesting to see where he does sign in 2026. I don't want him back on this team at all. I'm tired of these soft throwing left-handed hitters or pitchers that you're kind of hoping they do well. I'm tired of that. Let's move away from that and let's get some good quality starting pitching.
Yeah. So you're saying you're not in on Ranger Suarez in the offseason, a lefty?
I think my heart can't handle it, man.
I think I can convince you on Ranger Suarez. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be just fine. Mike, what frustrates me at times is when the Angels sign guys like a Tyler Anderson or even a Kyle Hendricks, who we'll talk about here in a second. They just kind of turn them loose, don't they? And they just kind of let them keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. I don't know what you can do as a pitching coach and in Barry Enright's shoes to tell Tyler Anderson to do something different or, to make his pitches more effective or to help him get a feel for his pitches. Sometimes it's just the Angels feel very hands off in that regard. Now, when it comes to Kyle Hendricks, here are the grades that our everydayers gave to him. He got a score of a 3.25. Mike, that was good for a B minus for Kyle Hendricks. And some of the comments were better than expected. He did his job and also was an innings eater. Surprised by the B minus grade? What do you say?
I am. I was thinking more middle of the road, neutral C, but
okay.
I think B minus because he was somebody that when he was on, and he didn't have too many bad starts. There were a few starts, 3 innings, lots of runs, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of his starts, he got into the 5th inning, 6th inning, including the last few starts of the year. He found himself late in the game still pitching and had to fight to continue to do that, which again goes back to Ray Montgomery. Why are you even fighting? Because we're not playing for anything. Let him pitch, right? And I really think that he's somebody that was a pleasant surprise for the Angels. So I see why the B minus grade is there. I think he did do his job, and he didn't just eat innings. He did it in an effective way. I felt like with Kyle Hendricks, outside of maybe 1 or 2, 3 starts, I felt like we were in the game, and the Angels had an opportunity to win that game with him on the mound.
It's so funny because sometimes you'd have a start from Kyle Hendricks where it was essentially, oh, crap, 3 runs in the 1st inning.
Yeah.
But then you go to the 5th or the 6th and not give up any more runs.
Yep.
And so you knew that you were going to have to fight back. But then he also found a way to keep you in the game. Even though he got you down early, he was able to keep the Angels in the game. Mike, I feel like the B minus grade is a bit generous.
Yeah.
But then if you consider, what did you sign Kyle Hendricks for? To do exactly what he did this year.
That's true.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to grade him based on that, and maybe that's the direction that our Lockdown Everydayers took it, I think that, a B minus when you signed him up to do what he did. I think he did what he did as effectively as a B minus. That's kind of where I landed with hearing this grade. So interesting. But again, a 3.25 score, a B minus grade for Kyle Hendricks.
I think we would take that thinking at the beginning of this year, February, right? Hey, if Kyle Hendricks has a B minus season, are you happy about that? I think all of us would go, heck yeah, absolutely, right? So I think it's a fair grade. I think it's a bit generous, but you're right. He did what he was asked to do, and he did it efficiently in most of his starts.
Yeah, on a Kyle Hendricks scale, he definitely got a B minus.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way that you can put it. All right, big disappointment this season, considering how he finished the second half last year. That's Jack Kochanowicz, Mike. Jack Kochanowicz got a score of a 1.68 out of 5. That was good for a D letter grade. Some of the comments said disappointing. He needs more strikeouts. He needs more seasoning. He needs more time in AA or AAA. So there's a lot of needs more comments. And then finally, a big sentiment in our comments was just, what happened to Jack Kochanowicz this season? What do you think happened here, Mike?
I think that he was trying to be everything that people wanted him to be instead of being the guy that he is. And the guy that he is, I think, is the guy that we saw at the end of last season, 2024. He was somebody that could get deep into the game and throw a minimal amount of pitches and keep you in the game. He's a younger version of Kyle Hendricks, but maybe a bit more effective.
Well, he's got more power than Kyle, that's for sure.
And I think he's trying to add pitches that will give him the strikeout. But the tension he has to ride is, if I don't have a strikeout pitch, then I need to have a contact pitch. Yeah. And he does with his sinker. The issue was that he left it over the plate a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of that might have to do with how he winds up and where his release point is at. A lot of that might have to do with how hard he's trying to throw it.
Yeah.
Felt like there was a lot of emotion on the mound, a lot of frustration on the mound, especially when he got down John, they just figured him out.
Yeah.
There was hit after hit after hit after hit. And then even going to the minor leagues, they didn't give him a chance to really figure anything out.
They
kept him
brought
down
him
there
right back up. Yeah.
and absolutely did not do him any good bringing him back up. John, that scout we shared on a show about a month ago, there was a scout that looked at the Angels rotation, young guys and some of the prospects. And the scout said, Jack Kochanowicz is not a starter. He has like Chris Cortez and other guys ahead of Jack Kochanowicz. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him in 2026. Nowhere near the starting rotation to start the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a shame because he's got the velo, he's got the power sinker, and I just think the tools were used incorrectly. You're right. Everybody wanted him to have a bunch of strikeouts. It's the same kind of argument with Nolan Shonowell and adding a bunch of home runs.
Mm-hmm.
It's not who they are, right? Yep. And certainly they can grow and get better in those areas, but it's not what you need, and it's also not who they are. And I think that was in conflict with a lot of what happened with Jack Kochanowicz this season.
We're right in the middle of the NFL season, and FanDuel's got an offer that you don't want to miss out on. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. So pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. And I love how many options FanDuel gives you to play. You can build parlays, player props. You can even follow the money lines during live games when things unfold. You can go, ooh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do that. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes game day so much better. So don't wait any longer. Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app right now, and get started. Again, you can put down $5, and if it wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets on FanDuel.com.
Hey, one of the things that the Angels did well was that they didn't use 86 starting pitchers to get through the season this year. And that's one of the reasons why we thought they signed a Kikuchi and a Kyle Hendricks and had Tyler Anderson stay on this team over the offseason. I know Anderson got hurt about 3/4 of the way through, but those are guys who have been there, done that. They've eaten a lot of innings. They have taken a lot of innings for the starting rotation. And then they didn't have to make many adjustments beyond that, which is like the first time in several years that that's happened, Mike. But we did get glimpses of some of the young arms that are going to be part of this future. One of those arms was Caden Dana. Here comes his grade. He got a score of 2.43. That's good for a C- grade. The comments said, needs more time, showed flashes, essentially showed flashes of greatness, good pitching, all that stuff, and then making progress, which is a comment that I agree with, but I want to hear your thoughts on these grades and those comments.
My guess would be that each of the next names that we share are all going to be about C grades because they all were kind of good, right? And then had moments where they weren't good. I think we all could say that they need to make more progress, but are also making progress. I think with Caden Dana, we saw some of that with him working on his release point, working on his windup.
The arm slot,
all of that stuff is really important for Caden Dana. And he did have a couple of games where kind of blew up, but stayed in the game and was able to go deep into the game. One of his starts, he went 7 innings. That's what you want to see from Caden Dana, not allowing one inning to get the best of him. That's what you want from a young guy on a team that's not winning during the regular season as the regular season ends. You want to see that from your young guys. I think he's somebody, depending on what the Angels do, that they should consider maybe number 5 in the starting rotation. Obviously, I'm in agreement with our everydayers. Needs more time, needs more development. But out of the guys that we're going to be talking about, he might be the guy that we would want to see in the starting rotation. Again, depending on what the Angels do with this starting rotation.
Yeah, another guy we got to see as a starter was Sam Aldegheri. The score he got from our everydayers was a 2.27 out of 5. That's also good for a C-. Another needs more time comment, in progress. And then also number 4, number 5, something around there. What do you think of those, Mike?
Yeah, they're spot on. And Sam is somebody that, man, talks a big game. He seems like he's a bulldog. He's got that, he's an Italian, right? He's going to go out there and he's going to take you out, right? But the problem is we just haven't seen that on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
And in the minor leagues, he was starting to get there. So maybe some more time in the minor leagues would be great. He's call number 2, maybe, if I have to fill a spot in the rotation, I'm calling him to bring him up. I think Caden Dana would be number one if he's not in the rotation. But Sam Aldeguerri has a lot of potential. I would like to see him start to put it together in spring training and in the minor leagues this year.
Yeah, you saw that he came up, pitched the 2 bullpen innings, figured out some stuff that wasn't working, and said, all right, I know what to do. And that's an attitude that we've liked. And even Jack Kochanowicz had that last year. Remember, he came up, didn't do well, came back up, and said, yeah, I had to go down and figure out what I was doing wrong. Yeah. And then he has the rest of the season that he had in 2024. You kind of hope that attitude sticks around for some of these other pitchers. Let's talk about Mitch Ferris, who we got to look at for the first time this season. Another C- grade. It was a 2.45 score, Mike. More development, showed some promise, and then depth piece, which I think is kind of maybe where he lands in his career as, a number 6 or a number 7, right? As somebody that you call up in a pinch. What were your thoughts on Mitch Ferris this season and the grades that he received?
Started great, and then his last few starts got figured out. Felt like in his last few starts, it was Davis Daniel just throwing from the left side.
Yeah.
We got the same pitcher.
Who we traded for to get Mitch Ferris, by the way.
Got the same pitcher, but just from the left side. And no shade to Davis Daniel. We're a fan of his. He's a fan of the show. But Mitch Ferris felt like that, and that he wasn't a strong competitor after people started figuring him out.
Yeah. It doesn't have a lot of power, in terms of velo. So he's going to have to rely on being tricky up there. And that's tough for a young guy. He's like you said, Davis Daniel from the left side and a few years younger. So they kind of hit the reset button on a Davis Daniel type. And that's who Mitch Ferris was. Remember, Davis Daniel came out, had a great start last year in his first one. Mitch Ferris did the same thing. And then shortly thereafter, it just didn't stick. Finally, let's get to Victor Mederos, Mike, who I've been screaming for these guys to give him a chance as a starter. Stop bringing him up and pitching him out of the pen. Let the guy start. Then he made some changes to his windup and his release point and his arm slot. And those changes were supposed to carry over into the majors. And you saw flashes of it, but Victor Mederos received a 1.99 grade, a D+. Our everydayers gave him that grade, and they also said they need to see more of him. He's interesting depth, and then also potential ? And, you talked about that scout that Jeff Fletcher spoke to about the Angels organization. He says Victor Mederos should be somebody they consider for the major league rotation. I was surprised to hear that. What about you?
I don't buy it, and I'm not a scout. And he probably knows more than I do. I don't buy it. There's nothing about Mederos that has made me go, yeah, let's give him another shot. Let's see if we can see more. When the comments were, we need to see more. I've seen enough, man. I don't think that there's anything about him that would make me go, yeah, put him in this rotation, maybe an emergency starter. But he just hasn't shown me anything that would make me go, yeah, I want to buy into Victor Mederos.
Man, you saying that makes me want to buy into him just so I can be against you and support him.
Usually wrong.
Not all the time. That's okay.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your next listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. You can find Game Night on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Come on over to YouTube, find today's show. We want to hear your responses to the grades that you, our everydayers, gave to the starting rotation. Mike, what do we have on deck for our next roster report card?
Talk about the bullpen. You graded the bullpen, and there's a lot of good conversation to come from that. I'm interested to hear what you had to say about Kenley Jansen, and I'm also interested to see what happens next year if the Angels re-sign him and have him and Ben Joyce actually live in this bullpen. We're going to talk about the bullpen and give their grades tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
I swear, if you bozos gave him anything less than an A, I'm going to be... I'm just kidding. All right, friends. We hope you'll come back and join us for that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you next time on Locked On Angels.
Going to be so mad if he doesn't get an A. So mad.